Welcome everybody to the Healthcare Workers for Palestine Portland chapter. It's Vigil here today. Thanks to everybody who's come out today. Thanks to all the Healthcare Workers for Palestine folks from our Portland chapter who have worked to put this together. Thanks to Zia for leading us with chant and song tonight. And thanks to all the healthcare workers across the globe today who are seeing this day as a rallying call under the banner, Sick from Genocide. This is a campaign. It's not just today, but our call for healthcare workers to follow in the footsteps of the students who left their comfort zones to speak out to end the genocide in Gaza. So we're saying today, sick from genocide. And now it's our turn as healthcare workers to stand up and step out. This is from Doctors Against Genocide on the Sick from Genocide message. Turning grief into purpose and trauma into action. As healthcare workers, we have witnessed unimaginable atrocities. Hospitals destroyed, patients and colleagues targeted, and entire communities left in ruins. The moral injury, trauma, and grief from these horrors has left us sick. Sick from genocide, sick from complicity, and sick from the silence of those in power. Starting today, January 6, 2025, we are taking a stand. Healthcare workers across the country will take mental health sick leave to grieve, heal, and organize. This is not just a day off, it's a call to action. Together, we will demand accountability, justice, and an end to the ongoing genocide. Organizing to end genocide is not only our responsibility, it is our path to healing. Join us in standing against these atrocities and in building a future that's rooted in justice and humanity. Our demands in doing this work. As healthcare workers, we're calling for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. An immediate arms embargo on Israel, which receives 70% of its aid and its weapons from the United States. A release of 450 healthcare workers held in Israeli prisons, abducted, including now a focus on Dr. Abu Safia from North Gaza's Kamal Adwan Hospital, who is being held and very likely tortured. Accountability by Israel and our government for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Immediate, unhindered humanitarian aid to enable the reconstruction of Gaza. Fund healthcare, not warfare. The U.S. has sent over $18 billion to Israel over the last year, while over this time period, some 20 million people have lost their Medicaid, and many more, as we know, are uninsured and have fallen through the cracks in our very broken healthcare system. We demand a change in our priorities. As healthcare workers, we are stepping away from work not to abandon our duty to our patients, but to highlight the urgent need for global intervention. This is not just a call for justice for Gaza. It is a call for the preservation of our collective humanity. So I looked up the word vigil, because that's what we are doing here tonight. And I like this definition. It speaks about a period of keeping awake during a time that's usually spent asleep, especially to watch and to pray. So we're not going to allow ourselves to fall asleep, to be complacent. as a genocide continues happening. And not only will we watch and pray, but as we are witnessing, we will be committed to act. So this evening, what we're going to do is we thought it was really important to hear the voices of Palestinians. And so we have a number of readers who are going to be reading from writers primarily from Gaza, Palestinian writers. And we have a few themes that we're going to follow tonight, which seem kind of timely. The first is memories. The second is the impact on children. The third is looking at the health and healthcare system decimation, destruction in Gaza. And the fourth is our call to action, what we must do. So I'm going to call the first reader, who is Marcia.
I saw, yeah, I could hear that.
Did everybody hear okay? Yeah.
In and out. Good evening. My name is Marcia. I'm a retired public school teacher, standing here with all of y'all. I'm going to read from Memories by Tariq Hajjaj. Maybe closer. No, okay. Everything, can you hear me?
Is that better? Good?
Everything was as it should be. The house was spacious, filled with sun, birdsong, and blossoms. The rain was wetting the trees in the yard, and the smell of rain-soaked sand seeped into the house. The extended family quickly gathered in one place, and the house was filled with grandparents, their children, and grandchildren. My firstborn son was crawling in the house and moving from one place to another, leaning on the wall and furniture to take his first steps. I was looking at him and anticipating the best he could find when he grew up, and I was waiting day after day to see him as a boy, talking and thinking. Everything was possible. We had a home. We had land that we could trace back to our ancestors. We knew neighbors one by one, and we knew the neighborhood's residents. We lived a simple, though sometimes uneasy, life, but we tried with all our might to be happy and create happiness in our homes with the simplest of things, like birthday gatherings for our children. After the birth of my son, Caius, I couldn't wait to celebrate his birthday, but then the war came. On his first birthday last December, we celebrated in an abandoned house in Rafah, where we were displaced. After we left our home in early October due to the war, it was a small celebration. I tried to gather all the displaced children in the same 3-story house and provide them with what they needed to be happy for a few hours before they returned to the constant fear they lived in due to the sounds of the shelling and bombs. Despite the difficulties, like searching out in the streets, bombs raining around me for hours for a candle, or the materials to make a cake, it was a beautiful time. I felt happy as I watched the children from other families in the same building spend a long time playing with my son, Caius. However, I couldn't shake the sadness inside me. I wish that he would celebrate his first birthday in his home, our home in Gaza City, among his uncles and cousins and the children who used to spend time playing with him before the war. But none of them were there. I was displaced in Rafah, and they were all displaced in Khan Yunis. Throughout the war, we only met a few times. Hamoud, my nephew, was Caius's closest friend. He would spend the whole day with him in our house in Gaza. When Caius would sleep during the day, Hamoud would knock on our door constantly, asking about Caius until he would resign to just sitting up in the living room and waiting for him to wake up. While waiting, he would wander around the house, picking up sweets and toys that I always had waiting in the house in anticipation for the visits from my nieces and nephews. I was so generous of Caius's guests in our home in Gaza, and I loved to see him among the children, playing and laughing. He was the youngest grandchild in the family. family, and they all loved him and wanted to be around him. I wished to see him as a boy accompanying his cousin Hamoud to school one day. But the war tore the family apart and displaced everyone, each person with his family and children, to a different place. Hamoud remained in the displacement camps in the Gaza Strip, and Caius moved on to a journey of asylum and living in exile in Cairo. Just last month, Caius celebrated his second birthday, this time in Cairo, surrounded only by my wife and I. We had a birthday cake on a small round table, candles, decorations, balloons, and sang in the house all day. In the end, however, my wife and I could not stop talking about how if this birthday had been in his house in Gaza, it would have been more beautiful and filled with the children of the family who loved Caius and his company. We could not get over this idea if our celebration had been in our house in Gaza instead of the loneliness of exile. We began to remember the times the family spent in our home, the bedroom we used to prepare for him, the toys inside it, his clothes that we lost after the displacement, his wooden bed, his pictures on the wall, and the playground in the courtyard of the house. All of our happy occasions as a family in that house have turned into a tragedy of memories. The war has robbed us of our happiness by depriving us of our homeland, our families, and our friends, and it has destroyed everything we made memories and our lives with. They destroyed our homes and our cities. Everything we owned and worked hard for has become a painful memory. Even now, in moments of joy, all we think about are the things we lost, like celebrating my son's birthday, celebrating the new year, or even the simple pleasure of gathering as a family without fear of the Israeli death that hovers around us.